This is the Be the Solution podcast. I'm Maria Quattrone. Today, my guest is Nate Martinez from Phoenix, Arizona, and Remax Professionals. Welcome, Nate.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to share whatever.
I wanted to be in a business that I did not have a ceiling. Take a pen and a piece of paper, draw a line, draw another line next to it. At 365 days, if you drew 365 lines, you started here with one line, but look how far you've come. Nate, didn't mean to cut you off like that. The fingers.
It's okay. Good morning.
Technology. We love it and we hate it.
Well, it's the way we live anymore with Zoom and all the different things that we have to do online that we didn't really experience 2-3 years ago. So I think it's very efficient for all of us.
It's very efficient, getting much more done, and we could be all over the world and still doing what we need to do, right?
Yeah, you might even say it's a solution to our new world, right?
Yes, it is the solution. Be the solution. So you certainly, sir, are the solution. You've been, in Remax for how many years now?
Over 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's a system that I love, and it's been very. I come from very, very humble beginnings, and getting into real estate and what I've accomplished through the Remax system, and I really lean into the system, right? I'm at a lot of conferences, and it pays off, both in knowledge, referrals, and so yeah, pretty much wear well, there it is on that side. I wear a Remax shirt almost every day. People know I'm with Remax, so it's proud of my company.
It's awesome. So you have your brokerage and you have your team. How the heck did you get into the real estate?
How did I get in real estate? There was a guy that was dating my sister-in-law. She was living with me after a failed marriage, and this guy came over to pick her up, and he was driving a brand new 280Z, which most of your followers probably don't know what that car is. This was back in the 80s. And, he was wearing Jordache jeans. He had ostrich skin boots. This guy looked good. He was a good looking man. And he told me he sold real estate. And then he told me, and because I was nosy, I said, well, how much money do you make doing that? And at that time, he had made like $85,000, and it was August. Now, I was pouring concrete as a concrete laborer, probably making about $30,000 a year. I mean, busted it. I mean, I was shovel in my hand, digging ditches, pouring concrete, whatever it took, right? And I thought, man, I want to do that, And at the time, Phoenix, people were always moving to Phoenix from somewhere else. And I thought, well, I might as well get in real estate and help people buy houses in my city. And that was 1986, and it just started off with a boom and hasn't slowed down yet.
1986, you're pouring concrete, and then here you go, and it's several decades later, and you're still going strong. Did you go right into Remax at the time?
No, I did start at a small. I mean, Phoenix is the epic center of 100% companies. I mean, the concept of 100% companies was started in Phoenix. So I started at a little real estate company where I paid like $25 a month, and I got 100% of my commission minus a small $150 transaction fee. Okay. And I did that for about a year. I mean, this was a small brokerage. There was nothing there. And then I bounced to another similar company that had a brand new office. And I think by my third year, I joined Remax. And I joined Remax because I got involved in education early. I got my CRS designation, my GRI designation, and I started going to the National Association of Realtor conferences. So that was like my third year, and I noticed people that were with Remax were doing things different, right? They were on stage, they were successful. It was. Before other company, I don't think Keller Williams was even open yet. And so the Remax agents really stood out amongst the other speakers. And so I just wanted to be one. And there wasn't one in my area. And when I finally joined Remax, it was probably about a half-hour drive to go to that office, you know. So it's again, that's 31 years ago.
So then what?
Then what? I think education. I would say, depending on who's listening to this, if you're new in real estate, education is key. You gotta get around people that are going to help you grow. And again, the GRI, the CRS courses were my first, I guess, love of education. When I was in high school and junior college, I just, wasn't really my deal. But once I got into real estate, I just became a junkie of education. Give you an example. I've been to every Remax convention for 30 years. I've never missed them.
Every R4?
Every R4.
And every
First one I went to, I thought it was, everything, right? I was selling over 100 homes a year. I was number one agent at my company, and I went to the first Remax convention in 1991, and it was in Atlanta. And the top dogs that were walking across the stage were selling over 500 homes. And I was like, wow. And it just, when you get around people that are bigger than you or bigger thinkers, it just opens up your horizon, and what is possible. I didn't know that people could sell over 100 homes a year until I went to a CRS celebration. It was the very first one they ever had. And there was people on stage that were selling over 100 homes. And it was the next year that I was able to go back to my community, put into action what I learned. And we haven't sold under 100 homes in probably 27, 28 years. It's a process, and learning the process and putting what you learn into action is key. And so today, as I told you before we started, I'm just coming back from 2 Remax events that were kind of back to back, one in Denver, one in Dallas. And when you get this to be in an audience, and the number one Remax agent in the world, individual agent that did $330 million in transaction, tells you how he does it, you just lean in and you start taking notes, And I was on a mastermind call right before this, and I was pretty much talking about what this gentleman had done to build his business and how he runs it. It's crazy,
Who was that?
Jordan Cohen.
Oh, where's he, in California?
Yeah, he's in LA, Hollywood.
Yeah, well, the numbers tell its story. It's
mm-hmm. He did 79 transactions. He has no buyer's agents, right? And again, as a coach, because I coach in real estate, I'm thinking, God, he's leaving a lot of money on the table, but he's making, I guess, about an $8 million year.
So he's doing, what did you say? 80 transactions, 79, 80 transactions, average 4 million a transaction.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Our average price point is like 300,000. So
yeah, we're 400. You know what I mean? It's but it's like
we should move to California, Nate.
That's exactly what I told Josh this morning. I go, I should pack up and move and be this guy's buyer's agent, pick up his scraps, because it's crazy. I mean, we had an agent here in Phoenix just sell a Remax agent has sold a $28 million house cash last month. As so he's getting a lot of notoriety because it's in the papers, and it's definitely a new high, so
I never sold a $28 million house.
Yeah, most real estate agents don't sell $28 million worth of real estate in their career.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. It's the long game. Real estate is the long game, all relationship driven, right?
It's definitely relationship driven. The word proximity, and to give you a little idea, like, it was probably 10 years of my real estate career before I sold a $250,000 house. right? I started in the inner city selling bank-owned, repossessed homes that HUD and VA were selling. Remember, I was a construction worker, so I had a full-time job, and it was pretty cool to get a key for HUD and be able to go in and show these HUD houses and the government was paying 6% co-broke on them. So it was, one guy told me in the office, because if I have a full-time job too, because, but this is what I sell because, I can get in them after work and not need appointments because they're all vacant. And, to go from there, 10 years later, maybe selling and $250,000 10 years later, which is 23 years ago or 26 years ago, it, was a nice home, half acre, tile roof, custom home. Today, a track house, 15 to 1,800 square foot cost $250,000. But
So what is that today? $1,000,001?
yeah, it's probably $1,000,000 today, that particular house. And, and then so proximity. So one of the gals on my team, she's only been licensed less than 2 years. She took an ad. We use a Boomtown as one of our lead generating software websites. She took a lead that came in from Google that dumped into the system, and she just followed up on this call. Next, she's showing this guy $1 million plus houses, and she listed. I say she, it's under my name, but she got the listing for 2.25, and I think now in the last 6 months she sold, I think, 3 houses over $1 million, including the 2.25 house. Right away, right? It wasn't. She didn't have to wait 10 years like I did to get a big one. She's 18 months in the business, and she's doing great. You know what I mean? So I think part of the solution, is having systems in place, the right people, the right marketing, having a positive attitude. Is what's allowing her and her business to grow faster than somebody that maybe had to go the long game like I did.
Well, there's definitely a different game going on today than there was 20 years ago,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the only way to get information back in, I started in 04, was to go to events. So I would go to Mike Ferry events. And
In the desert?
huh?
Did you go to the Superstar event
Yeah.
in Palm Springs?
One-on-one coaching, whatever that one was called, in January, and the Superstar retreat, July in Las Vegas. Who wants to do that?
Yeah.
102 degrees outside and 62 inside. Anyway, that's how you got the information, right? There wasn't YouTube and how to do a listing presentation on YouTube. None of that
And
happened.
podcasts went around,
No, there was no podcast. There was no YouTube. So you had to go to the events and be in masterminds and all that to get that information. And now it's right there. So you can move. It's so much easier, I think, today to be in our industry than it was then. But nonetheless, you still have to do the work, right?
Yeah, to do the
Still
work.
have to do the work. So I want to ask you a question, because I remember, like, you were a big REO HUD guy for a long time, right?
Pardon me? Yeah, REO? Yes.
So is it coming back, or?
No, I don't think so. The difference, Phoenix was an epic center. You know what I mean? It pretty much melted down here pretty fast. I'll tell you a little story about how to get involved if you think REOs are going to be coming into your market. So at the time, I was pretty well established in my farm. I always farm and I market. And we were selling about 300 homes a year. And then as the market started shifting, my business partner at the time, Frank, was like, "Hey, you need to get an REO." I go, "Nah, I did a little bit of that a couple of years ago. I hated it. It's a lot of paperwork and didn't want to do it. You got to pay the bills and
Put the stuff in the portal."
Yeah, and then next thing you know, Frank had 100 listings and I had 0. I was carrying about 30, 40 listings at a time. So I jumped right in, and there was an event. They still have it. It was called the 5-Star event in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I think it's, I haven't been to one in years, I think the last one I went was probably early 2008, 9 during the Epic Center, right? But I went to that event and I got really focused on a few things. Um, Learning how to prospect asset managers. I also, Dave Lineker one time, I have a daughter that's 12 years old. So it was about 12, it was probably about 13 years ago. There was an R4 in Orlando. And I was not going to go to it because at 50 years old, I was having a baby. My wife was having a baby. So, and the baby was going to be born right around R4. So I couldn't go. Well, the baby came a little bit early and was sitting down. I can just very clearly, I can remember this, that Dave Lineker was on the cover of Riz Media or something like that, right? And he talked about how he's going to have this REO exchange the day before R4 in Orlando. And as I'm reading to my son at the time, who's about 18 years old, and Tanya has our baby in her arms, I remember telling Nate about this conference, and Tanya was listening in, and she goes, "You need to go." Now, if she gives me permission to do anything, I don't ever second guess it. So
you're on the plane.
Yeah. So I got the permission to go. Baby was fine, healthy. Was a few days old. I booked my ticket to R4 and off I went. And I went to R4 with a very, very focused mission, right? I might go to a conference dressed with a golf shirt. I wore a suit every day because I didn't know if I was in the Starbucks line waiting to go, if I was going to meet an executive from B of A or Wells Fargo or Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. I went with the business mind. I went to that conference and made some pretty good connections. Within that year, I ended up getting a Freddie Mac account, a Fannie Mae account, a Wells Fargo account, a B of A account, and several smaller banks that were local, right? And within that next year, I remember being at the NAR convention. You might notice I'm a little bit of a convention junkie, right? So in November of that year, so that was probably February, March is when R4 comes out. And NAR is like in November. So I remember going to NAR, and now I'm all the way across country again because I think that was in Orlando or Miami or something. And I remember my assistant, Sarah, and Sarah's been with me over 25 years, by the way. So Sarah calls me and says, "Hey, we just got 30 Freddie Mac REOs. What do we do?" I don't know what we're supposed to do, and they were all over the valley, and we had to go in there and, analyze them and tell them what repairs need to be done and so forth. And that following, I would say the next 18 months or so, but we closed over 680 REOs in 1 year. And it was a fantastic.
It's a boatload of REO.
Yeah, and as a broker owner, I recruited some agents to be on my team, that have gone on to have amazing businesses, but because of that flow of business, I was bringing in at team members. I had 4 contract assistants. That's all they were doing was, it was not uncommon back then, kind of like we just, gone through the last couple of years. But if you had a house, we used to get houses that were like, 2,500, 3,000 square feet, couple years old, that maybe they bought for 250. We were selling for like 75,000, 100,000, right? So we would get 40 offers on these houses. So it was a machine, it was before some of the technologies that we have today to help out. But, so I had these 4 ladies that we laugh and say that they were chained to the desk because all they were doing was processing paper and offers. And as you know, putting all things into the portal and dealing with the asset managers. And it was crazy. We nicknamed our team the friendly REO team. Because if you were an REO agent in Arizona during the boom, they wouldn't talk to you. The listing agent would never call you back. And everybody was frustrated. So, and when you get 30 offers, you also get beat up by 29 other agents that lost the offer. And so I had to pound it into the team that we're the friendly REO team. We can't let these people bring us down. And it was a very positive experience And it was tough because we were having people have, we had to evict a lot of people, and offer them cash for keys to leave their houses. And it's a humbling experience when you can, even my son, who's a very high D personality, and as a younger man at the time in his early 20s, he really didn't care about people. You know what I mean? But I would see him come back from offering a cash for keys to like, I remember one time he said, these people like somebody's grandparents, Dad. He goes, she was vacuuming the house on the way out,
Mm.
handed me the keys, and I gave her the check. And I can see it. It kind of rocked him a little bit because most of the houses you get to, they stole the cabinets, the toilet.
Yeah. Took everything out. The
Yeah.
copper.
Yep. We had a lot of copper theft.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so I think just we built solutions around solving some of those problems that our country had, and it was a good run. We probably sold a couple thousand REOs during that run. Thank God that's over. And you
Oh,
asked, do I think it's coming back? I don't think so. In the last conference I just attended in Dallas, they said 25% of all houses in America are purchased with cash. Think about that, 1 in 4 cash. And I think 43%. I think on average, I think every house in America has $43,000 worth of equity. So even if people get into trouble, it's usually going to be sold before it gets to foreclosure because they have equity. Back then we had a lot of bad loans. And a lot of like Phoenix, the new home investors would come in from all over the country and buy brand new homes. And all of a sudden we'd have a whole new subdivision built and nobody living in them. Right. And have a couple of renters, and there was not enough renters for all these houses that were built. So they were like building ghost towns, So it was really crazy when that market shifted, So
I recall we did a bunch of HUD properties, and it was a headache.
Mhm.
It was a headache. So the reason why I asked you is that I saw an REO come up a couple of days ago. In fact, I looked at it, I go, oh to my husband, I said, we should have bought this. It was
Mhm.
in the suburbs of Philadelphia, listed for just under 1.3. And it was in like 3/4 of the way done. So I'm wondering if like some of these investor people are going to not be able to finish their projects. It was just interesting because I
Mhm.
haven't seen one in a long, long, long time.
Right. But I think what happens though, same example. I sold one of my office buildings, trying to downsize because people aren't coming to the office as much. We had this large building, and my partner, that was my partner for 20 years, had retired from brokerage and wanted to liquidate that asset and reinvest in residential. So sold a building 2 years ago and it worked out perfect. Found another building in the same location, downsized and modernized, and that was a perfect deal. So we're trying to do the same thing out in the city of Surprise. And it was great, everything perfect. We sold the building, but I couldn't find anything. There was nothing there. So I have a short window with my 1031 exchange closing.
Yeah.
I was at R4, and I got a phone call, and one of my past clients called me, and she had a house that we tried to sell 8 years ago, couldn't sell it. Um, we put a tenant in it for her. The tenant stayed there for 8 years. Well, what happened is she had a bad loan, and it was called due and payable after 10 years, right? So
Mm,
she called me and she goes, I haven't made payment in my house for a year and a half.
mm.
It's going to foreclosure. There's a trust sale in like 30 days. Can you help me? like,
You're
uh,
like, perfect.
well, and I didn't know if I could help her, but I've engaged in vacation rentals. I've been investing in these things, and this was a big jump. It was a million one,
Mm,
um, and I bought it. I bought it from her. I saved the foreclosure. Uh, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's somebody that's going to rescue some of these people that get financial, and I think I'm going to make some money on it. I think it's probably after the work I've done to it. It was kind of let go. She hadn't paid on it. The tenant kind of roughed it up a bit, and but we've completely revamped this home, I know there's a couple $100,000 of equity, but more importantly, I think it's going to be a home run as a vacation rental. But I think those are the things that happen is as opportunities come, there's enough buyers, there's still enough demand that if somebody's in trouble, somebody's going to bail them out. But going to the foreclosure steps and having houses actually transacted is the lowest it's ever been. Not to
Yeah.
say that couldn't change a little bit, but it's going to take a while before we get in trouble. Hopefully, we never.
No, we don't
repeat
want to see
where we were.
people do that.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So you started your brokerage first and then started your team, or how did all that come
No,
about?
I've had a team. God, I used to be part of a group of agents. It was called Star Power. And
Oh,
Star Power was a way that, I used to be a Mike Ferry guy, but Tom Ferry guy. I mean, I'm a guru to everybody. But Howard Britton had this thing called Star
yeah.
Power, and I attended that. I learned so much from all these different agents out there. And it's funny. We can all get our information. You started this call with information. How do we get information today? Back then, to be a Star Power person, I had a subscription, and once a month I'd get a cassette tape in the mail. And that's what I lived with, that cassette tape over the next 30 days till the next one came in. And it was Howard interviewing somebody like you, Maria, that just going deep and asking questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? And then you find these nuggets and then you just implement them. So I've had a team for over 30 years. And it was due to some of the stuff I learned early on in CRS and Star Power that I put a team together. It was we started our brokerage. We were with Remax for a while. My partner was with another company. When I say partner, we were never partners in sales. He had his team. I had my team at different companies. So I convinced him to come over to the Remax office I was working. Later on, he was thinking about opening up his own shop and going independent. And I was thinking I can do a better job than my broker because all agents think they can, And so I was driving one day and I found a place and I called Frank. I said, "Hey, do you want to be my partner? Do you want to do this?" And after he thought about it for a while, we agreed, became 50-50 partnership. We took down the space we rented and we opened up our Remax office. Our first official day of Remax Professionals was September 11th, 2001. So we were having our first meeting ever when
Wow.
it was at a coffee shop, and it was a nice restaurant in the back room. And the waitress had tears in her eyes, and she's telling me, she goes, I'm going, "What's the matter?" And she goes, "Oh, a plane hit the World Trade Center." Now, in my mind, the only thing I can even think, a little Cessna bounced in and maybe two people died. And I thought, well, how sweet is she? It wasn't until like after the meeting when people started coming. We had two meetings back to back, and people started coming in to realize what a tragedy we were in the middle of at that time. I had 10 top agents that were going to come join us, and not one of them did. We found ourselves, as everybody in America, stunned by what was going on. Anybody buying a house was canceling. Anybody listed their house was canceling. It was so much uncertainty. It was a very, very difficult next year, as brand new, agents that came together and left their very successful brokerage to start one. And, it was a tough year, but that was 21 years ago and we're still going strong.
Yeah. There was a lot of adversity to walk through at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was in advertising sales and everybody canceled their advertising
Mm-hmm.
except for Acme supermarkets.
Yeah.
People still wanted to buy groceries.
Yeah.
And we had like one car dealership. He was really smart. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
cancel because
Yeah.
everybody else did, so he didn't.
Yeah.
But it was a difficult. I remember that period very succinctly, and it was a difficult time for,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, like maybe at least through the end of the year into the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the year, right?
Yeah. I would
And
say
then
6
things kind of,
months,
yeah,
we didn't know what we didn't know, right? We'd never been attacked on our own soil before like that, in recent times, but I think it changed a lot of people, right? I think COVID, another thing, the pandemic has changed, more so the way people interact. Um, we seen there's one thing, Maria, as an owner, you take from previous tragedies or failures, if you will, in your business. And there was a couple things, right? We talked about the REO crash. When the market crashed, a lot of agents went out of business, right? And as a broker owner, you in the business of agents, right? So that was interesting. We had to sell some rental houses to keep the brokerage going. When 9/11, which was previous, when that happened, you have lessons. So when the pandemic started, I went back to 9/11. I went back to the REO crash, and I had to just really think, oh my God, here we go again. And I was so worried that we were going to just crash, right? The real estate market was going to crash. And, we're going to all be attacked financially. And really went into some deep thought and really started tracking things, like something that we hadn't tracked before. We started tracking cancellations because I wanted to make sure that I want to be ahead of, a financial challenge that our agents are going to have. And there was a lot of cancellations during that time because there was, again, uncertainty. But what happened is people realized they want to be closer to family. Now, I live in Phoenix, so there's a lot of retirees here. So a lot of people retired and wanted to go back to wherever they came from to be closer to their kids, their grandkids, and so forth. We had people that were, now you're doing homeschooling, and the husband's home and the wife's home, the house is too small.
Right.
Or they had to go buy a bigger house, right? Or people realize I got this big house, I don't need it anymore. I'm just going to, I'm going to downsize, and, our business went through the roof. Matter of fact, a lot of agents nationwide, I coach for Workman Success Systems, and a lot of agents I coach, a lot of people are down from the first quarter, second quarter from the previous year. But if you really look, it was an anomaly coming into that year. It was probably the biggest fourth quarter America had for sales, and even into the first quarter, all those sales pulled in. So it's, I have to tell people, we have to really look at that year was a bubble that just exploded, with sales. So, and then prices, I'm sure your market has gone up. The Phoenix market was, homes went up 34% in a year. Crazy. I've never seen that in 36 years, So
wow. No, we did not appreciate anything like that, but we did. Got 12%.
Yeah.
14% last year.
Yeah. That's huge, So,
pricing people right out of the marketplace, in fact.
Yeah. And we're experiencing that, we're, to be a first-time home buyer in the Phoenix marketplace is tough. And I think what I like the name of your show, that Be the Solution. What do you do? How do you serve people that are trying to buy? Now, if you were a first-time home buyer in Phoenix buying in the $400,000 or less price range last year, it was not uncommon that every house that you made an offer on had 10, 20, 30 offers on it, right? We had Wall Street type companies coming in buying houses cash. So if you were a veteran, a VA buyer that you went out and served your country so we can have freedom, you weren't even getting looked at because cash buyers,
Such a shame.
were paying more. And, we pride ourselves at busting our butt to do what we can to help our agents. We had to come up with different solutions. So, we would go out and buy houses for cash for different buyers so they can get a house, and then we would be the lender for them, if you will. Then they'd refinance after they owned it. Now, of course, we didn't have a lot of cash, but, we were able to assist, half a dozen home sales that probably wouldn't have happened over that year, and we try to find other people that had money and be creative to try to, compete with, like companies like Blackstone came in and bought tens of thousands of homes in Phoenix, and a lot of investment groups. They're clearly trying to buy these houses to put tenants in, right? And guess what happened to rents?
The rents are up. Prices are up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, Also, Phoenix is another epic center for all the iBuyer companies.
Hmm.
So we had Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow. They all started here. They all built their models in the Phoenix area because it's a very unique market. Like, if I go back to Philly, you guys don't have subdivisions. You probably do now, but you don't have subdivision like we have here in Phoenix. So,
We do not.
like, I live in a subdivision that's 4,500 homes. It was desert 15 years ago, right? They're building the second phase of it right now, another 4,500 homes. That's desert right now. They're like blasting and putting in sewer and water. But these big master plan communities, they're, I don't want to use the word cookie cutter, but they're similar, right? It's like, okay, this
Sure.
builder comes in, he builds 7 models. He's got a 2,000 square foot model, 2,300, 28, 3,000, and they just do them over and over and over again. So when these iBuyer companies come in, it's real easy for them to get comps.
Absolutely.
Here's something that was really interesting. Think about this. So you get these smart technology people with a lot of financial backing. They're out raising money, and they go into a community like my community, let's say, and they buy 10 houses with an average price of 400,000. Right now, the market's lifted, and they can sell one of their first houses for 50 or 60 or $80,000 more than what they bought it for. And now they create new comps, and now
Yep.
they have this liquid equity where they're showing on their bottom line for investors, like, hey, these 10 houses all went up 50,000, so we had a $500,000 raise in equity in 6 months. You know what I mean?
It should be kind of illegal.
Well, it should be, yeah. And but that's what happened. And some of these companies have moved on. Another company that started here in Phoenix, and this gentleman is, a smart guy, right? He's an attorney. He's been in real estate space for 20 years or so, or longer. But he came up with a concept which was called 24 sold. No, 72 hours sold, right? They'll sell your house 72 hours, no showings, no nothing. So if you're in the Phoenix marketplace, you got OfferPad, Open Door, TV commercials. You got 72 sold TV commercials. We're talking millions of dollars a month that these companies are spending just locally in Phoenix, right? On TV, that is changing the way people buy and sell.
Hmm.
So if you're a homeowner thinking about selling, you got 3 kids, a dog, a cat, 2 parents working, trying to keep it all together. Last thing you want to do is people coming in to your house, right? So the TV commercials are like, hey, we'll get your house sold, and you don't have to have showings. We'll have one open house for 1 hour, and your house will be sold in a bidding style thing, and it'll sell for more money. And they were. And then after that ran its play, then it was like, hey, you're afraid to sell your house. We'll get it sold, and you can live in the house for up to 6 months later, right? So all these solutions that these entrepreneurs were bringing, create different. And the one company I think sold 1,000 homes last month that I'm talking about, right?
Oh, wow.
So because of marketing and because of giving the consumer what they want as an easier transaction, realtors need to understand we need to find solutions for our clients, right? That, and what we found in Phoenix is people really are willing to take a little less, maybe, for the convenience, right? They would sell to Open Door for, let's say, $350. Open Door would turn around and sell it for $375, but they made about 6 or 7, not commission, they had service fee, because they would advertise no commissions, but they didn't advertise there was not a service fee. And so, they were making money on the buy, and they were making money on the sell. And in a market when it was going as rapid as it was, it's pretty much, we buy $10 million worth of houses, they go up 33%, 34%, they're making $3 million, you know what I mean, off those houses. So that's what we live in the Phoenix marketplace. It's just a petri dish of new ideas.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Sorry, rambling on, but that's.
But there you are, 31 years in the business, and you just keep on going because real estate is a relationship driven business long term,
Mm-hmm.
and consumers do still want experts, right?
Yeah, they
A
do.
lot of people do.
And they've never got all those eye bars, that whole thing. You look at that, and it's one of those perfect storms coming at you again. You start to wonder, okay, what's going to happen? Well, what has happened though is, inventory's gone way low. Commissions have actually come down. Length of time in the market has been shortened, and but they still never got more than a 10% market share. So we know, right, that relationships are the key. And if you're not in front of your past client database, somebody else is. And you need to, just because you sold somebody a house 3 years ago, you don't own that person, right? If you're not doing anything to stay top of mind with them, somebody else is, right?
Absolutely.
And there's
What are
nothing worse driving down the street and seeing a very good client of your house listed with somebody else. And it will happen, right? They have new relationships. Their neighbor's a realtor, their child's a realtor, the mother becomes a realtor. Who knows, right? There's enough realtors around, all right?
you probably have a lot in your market.
59,000.
That's sounds like a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I think Philly your whole, Philadelphia and the metropolitan area around there is about the same size as Phoenix,
Yeah.
right? And
I think with the whole area, maybe there's 20. I want to say it's 28,000,
wow.
but I'm not sure
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It's because you have to look in the MLS. I
Mm-hmm.
think, yeah, I think that's the number around that 25.
Yeah. We only have one MLS for all the cities here, which is kind of cool. It's a regional MLS. So all the different boards of realtors, we just have one MLS. So, but think about that: 59,000 realtors. And there's only 110,000 homes a year sell in metropolitan Phoenix, so it's less than 2 transactions per agent.
Whew. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Speaking of marketing to your clients, what are some things that you and your team do?
Well, I got great training going all the way back to CRS, late 80s, right? Talked about get their birthdays, get their wedding anniversaries, call them, send them stuff. So if you're my client and you've done business with me before, you're gonna get a newsletter, old school newsletter, in the mail.
In the mail?
In the mail, old school,
Ooh.
right? Every month. It's about 10 months a year. We don't send one out in December, and I think we skip another month along the year. So we do about 10 newsletters. But during December, we send out a holiday card. Thanksgiving, we invite people to come get a pie for Thanksgiving. They come and pick it up at our office.
We have that Pie Day.
Pie day, yeah. And so if you're a client of mine, we're touching you, right? I have a email that goes out every Monday morning called Nate's Monday Morning Message, and I send that out to
your whole database?
Yeah. So
Oh,
everybody.
that's cool, Nate. I love that.
As I was at the R4 or not at the Remax Luxury Forum in Dallas last week, 6, 7 agents come to me and say, "Oh, I love I get your email every Monday." You know what I mean? So I add realtors to that, and I add my client database. I've had the pleasure myself, my team, selling 6,000 homes in our career. So that is our biggest bucket of business, is staying in touch with people that have already did business with us. And
what does your Monday message sound like?
We just try, like this last one that went out Monday. We talked about the beginning of Flag Day and how Flag Day came together. And so we do different things. I call them whimsical, right? There's no sales, there's no negativity. It's all positive, and so we just send out a positive message every. We're finding. We're like on our 1,200th email now, 1,200 weeks in a row.
You use MailChimp or SendGrid or?
Well, I'm a Remax guy. I use booze.
Oh,
So, uh,
okay.
yeah. So, it doesn't matter what you use, I mean, but we do push out the content. And it's just, it's cool. You know what I mean? So again, if you're, a previous client of ours, you're going to get 52 emails a year. You're going to get a birthday card. You're going to get an anniversary card. You're going to get a anniversary card on the sale of your house or purchase of your house. Um, so the newsletter. You're going to be in touch. You're never going to forget us. Every once in a while, I get a call from a seller or a past client. I hate to call them past clients, but they're our clients. Like I had a lady call me the other day. She goes, "Nate, you need to take my husband's name off. He died 5 years ago." You know, and she wanted to argue with me a little bit. She goes, "You should have known." I didn't know. I'm sorry. You know, but as soon as I hear somebody passing, we immediately take that off because we don't want that constant reminder. That he or she's gone. But we really try to keep our database. We do some other things with our database. I do have a gentleman in the Philippines that has helped me transition from database to database when we move them around to go through and make sure everything's right. But he kind of calls, just checking in for people. Because when you have 6,000, I can't make the calls. It's just never going to happen. And like yesterday, he got somebody I need to call today that he found that wants to talk about buying or selling. Haven't really checked which it is yet. But he kind of just calls in and says, "Hey, Nate asked me to give you a call. So I wanted to know if you had any questions about real estate. He can set an appointment to talk to you." And that's kind of his deal. He's not a realtor. He can't say much more than that, right? He just
Right,
wants
right.
an appointment to talk to Nate. And about once a week, he tees one up for me, so to speak.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
So that's your VA's doing that.
Yeah, that's my ISA, I guess you would
Your
call me.
ISA, yeah. That's great. I
Yeah.
just hired Nate a executive assistant VA from the
Hmm.
Philippines. So he starts on Monday, and I created this list in Excel, 33 things for him to do.
Hmm.
And I wrote down like whatever it was, and then I wrote one time, like sign us up for this, or ongoing, or weekly, or biweekly, or monthly.
Hmm.
And I'm really excited about it because I feel like there's so many things more that I can do all the time. And how do I get more help, right? And meeting people who, like him, who really, really, it's amazing how much they love the opportunity to work with us.
Hmm.
He's from Philippines. And we
And
have two other ones, and they are so grateful and thankful for the opportunity with us.
well, we're paying them more than they can pay in their country, you know, and it's so much lower than what we can pay in our country. And I like to buy American. I was a union guy when I was in construction. I believe in buying American, and it was hard for me to outsource to the Philippines, but I couldn't find anybody to do some of this tedious work here, right? And so I do have that one gentleman. He's been with me for 3 years, you know, and I love it. We pay him the same American holidays. He reminds me, he goes, "Hey, Memorial Day." He goes, "Am I getting the day off? Am I getting paid?"
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. We
uh,
treat them the same as
yeah.
our employees here
And think about it.
at
They're
Remax.
working while we sleep, right? They're they're or
No,
actually
they're
they're working while
working
they
while
should be
they're
sleeping.
supposed to be
Yeah,
sleeping.
yeah, yeah. So, and with my coaching that I do for Workman Success Systems, I have a virtual assistant that kind of helps me with my coaching clients, and I meet with her every Wednesday, and she takes all the notes from the calls and sets the to dos, and it's really cool. I mean, since I had
That's
that
awesome. How long you been coaching with them?
5 years.
Coach. You've been a coach for 5 years?
Hmm.
Awesome. How many clients do you have?
Just 10. I can't do much more than that.
Weekly?
I do 2 calls a week. I mean, two calls a month, so it's 20 calls a month. And
Oh, so they're okay. They're
it's usually
bi-weekly.
like Tuesday. Is first part of my Tuesdays involved in coaching. And, it's something I never wanted to do. But, you know, my mentor, who was Howard Britton, changed my life, 30 years ago when I met him at a GRI. He was a GRI instructor. And what he poured into me changed my life, my children's life, my grandchildren's life, and everybody around me in real estate, because somebody poured into me. And so I have that love of learning, but I also like to give back. It's like, you called me and asked me to be on this podcast. The first answer is always yes. If somebody wants anything from me, it's always yes. So it's about giving back, because somebody gave into me. And trust me, I got a text this morning from a new person I hired, and it was from somebody that knows her. And I kind of got teary eyed right up before this call. I was reading this text. And I was like, that she's only worked for us a very short period of time. But her mother was telling another agent that I know, on just from her coming to work for us, how she's changed and how she's maturing. And I'm like blown away, because I don't know this stuff, right? You don't know.
Sure.
How you affect people, you try to do the right thing. But yeah, I think giving back is important. So that's why I coach. I mean, and I learn a lot. You got 10 powerhouse team leaders around the country. I mean, very powerhouse people. I'm learning from them. I'm getting motivated by what they're doing. And like you said a minute ago, it's like, there's just so much more to do.
There's so much more to do.
Yeah.
There's so much more to do. Yeah, I have a scholarship program that I do. So we bring people into the program starting from the school to mentoring during the school, then through the test, and then in my 2-week Rise in Real Estate Academy, which is something I developed for people to hit the ground running in. It's amazing. I have a young woman. She's originally from Indonesia, and she has 3 children. And she started with us April 1st, and she had her 3rd closing yesterday.
That's awesome.
So June 16th already actually had 3 settlements.
That's awesome.
In 2.5 months.
Yeah,
so her first one happened within. She did her first deal on her first week in the business.
That goes to that word I said earlier, the proximity. If she would have went to another real estate company and tried to go at it at her own, she probably would not have had that success. But because she got into your world and you're pouring the love, the energy, the training into her success moves faster. And I think people listening, you need to find a coach. You need to have a mentor, right? You don't necessarily need to pay somebody to be a coach, but have a mentor. Have somebody that you can learn from. Go to work for somebody for free. Be an intern. And to learn this business, because it's a great business. I mean, I know what I've been able to do, and the money that I donate back into our community, into all the different charities, and that kind of fuels me to go earn more, to give more, right? And there's a gentleman that's coaching in Workman. He's out of California. He gives 10% of every dollar he earns to charities, and his goal is to give out $1 million a year. Wow. Think about that, So he's in that high net worth in the LA area. But if he makes $4 million in a year, and he's going to give away $400,000 to charity, it's pretty inspiring to see what people can do, to help.
Real estate is
to be the solution in their community.
Yes, real estate is the vehicle to live our dreams, and to help others live their dreams, right? So through like training them and helping grow, and then client side investing in real estate, growing, their net worth that way, even just through first time home buyer, might be somebody who lived in generational poverty, who now, helping them build generational wealth through home ownership and through helping others in their family. So it's a very rewarding career. Challenging, lots of challenges, but That's why we, be the solution. And we
Mhm.
came up with that name because of I started my career in expired listings. Like
Mm.
2 years in, I
Yeah.
was like calling expireds. And so I said, why do people hire us? I'm like, because we're the solution. We are the solution. We
Mhm.
know how to get that property sold that 2 or 3 other brokers could not do. And I prided myself on that. In fact, right now we have more expireds in the market. We're starting an expire campaign, calling and direct mail, things
Mhm.
like that. And it's always great to be able to help those folks because they do want to get sold, and
I was gonna say, it's what you're talking about is working in real estate, right? Is finding things to be the solution for. And the gentleman who's the number one Remax agent in the world built his business on expired listings.
hmm,
That don't sound good.
no, that does not.
Is that like some type of alarm?
I don't know. It happens like once in a blue moon here.
Well, yeah, that means
Anyway, oh, we'll have to edit that.
well, everything happens, right? So
It
I
was great, Nate. You are I love talking with you because you're so calm and so relaxed. And you just bring like all this knowledge, and it's like so peaceful and loving, and
well, thank
it's
you,
great.
thank you. It's 7 o'clock in the morning here. I've been up since 5. It kind of helps that I was on East Coast time all week.
Yeah,
I think I woke up at
abs-
4 this morning. Yeah, 4.
absolutely. Well, we have the siren going off, so hopefully nothing bad is happening. But I appreciate you, and I'm thankful and grateful for the opportunity for you today to be on the solution. It's been great.
Well, the pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much. And if I can help any of your listeners, shameless plug.
How can we get you? How can we reach you?
My email is natem@remax.net. One of the gals that came to me to be on my team 25 years ago, still working with me, and last year we co-authored a book together called Eight. Golly, I went brain dead in my own title, right? 8 ways to dominate any real estate market, and easy read. It's all simple stuff, But again, it's one of the things that I think people follow those simple 8 steps, they can build a business that is worth having. So
I love that. I need to get that book.
yeah, you do.
Eight eight steps to dominate a real estate market.
Any real estate market. You can
Oh,
get it.
any real estate market.
It's on Amazon. We also wrote a companion book, which was a journal, a real estate journal. It kind of takes all the great journals of the world, ties them into real estate, ties into what we're teaching, and again, it's that was just something that was an afterthought as we were creating the book, and it's been fun to watch. You know what I mean? A kid with very little education, tons of real estate education, but formal education, and to be an author, and it's been kind of a fun way to cap out last year. So
So it's interesting how one thing leads into another, just like serendipity, right? Happening.
mhm. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
Well,
thank
thank you,
you.
Maria. I appreciate
Thank,
you so much. Thank you
thank you, Nate. It was
for
great.
doing what you do.
It was great being with you today.
Likewise.
Have a good one.
Bye bye.